everybody, my name is Jessica Holyfield. I'm a professional dancer, professional dance choreographer, and dance educator based out of the southeast of the United States. And we're taking a look at sleepwalking. This is Dreamcatcher. This is going to be a dance performance, dance practice of some kind. I'm very excited about it because I've been trekking along through Dreamcatcher's just discography of dance content through their dance practices of their own tracks, and it's been really enjoyable to see their growth, seeing concepts that work really well for them and other concepts that really pull at the heartstrings in different ways, which is kind of cool. So I guess the only thing really left to do is just to go ahead and take a watch. Fun. Interesting color grading on this. So now we have like a red light and a blue light that we're using in opposition. Does create a very interesting like filter on them, which is cool. It feels like I need to watch this with 3D glasses almost. Fun. Okay. I mean, for me, this is technically the first time I've experienced Dreamcatcher with cuts in their dancing, because normally, of course, with the music videos, I have not seen the music videos at this point in time, but I've seen all the dance practices up until this point in their work, and all of them are one takes, even the dance performances that I had watched. So do I feel that we needed to have the cuts? Personally, no. I mean, I understand that we were trying to go for a certain vibe, but just like the captivation of what made their previous one, I think Fly High, so captivating, like I said, is simply from the fact that it was a one take and just the camera guy knew what they were doing. So here I do feel like it was maybe a bit cramped in the space that they were given, and I don't know, it just feels a little different. Hold on. Okay, so I did a little look. So this is in 2017, and so we're still like very, very far away from our target of being caught up, right? But I don't know. I think with this one, because the movement isn't overly complex, they definitely have that very nice, tasteful, just captivation of synchronicity, of course, but I don't feel like we needed so many edits or so many transitions or effects within this to the degree that they gave. I think that's just more so an editing note, not even a choreography note. In general, I just feel like that was a bit overkill, because they even transition at strange parts. You know, it didn't feel, you know, here's your verse and then we're gonna bleed it over into the chorus. And because we just had different angles, it wasn't even the color grading was slightly different. I think that's just my in general observation, but I still very much liked it. I really like what they bring to the table all the time. I like the walks where they have this boom, 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 boom. Really nice to see that. It has that creepy doll-like aesthetic. I love it. Tapping through, boom. They like to have a nice little élanger or like a breath that happens with the fingers. I love seeing that here. And then honestly, they're going into a speed change. What they're doing is they're placing their weight on that front foot whenever they're stepping, and then they're slowing it down by rolling the weight through in order to make what they should be doing. I don't know if that's exactly what they're doing, but whenever you step, you kind of rock that weight or you adjust the weight in the moment to help create that speed change of going fast to slow. So I really like that. And they're also going in blind. That was a really nice, fun way to do the transition. Da 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 da, and dropping it. Also, side note too, it did feel like some of the clips didn't quite match the audio overlay, and that reaffirms my point of I feel like we overkilled on the amount of cuts that were made in this for a dance performance, because it's not like we were going from a fixed shot to like a moving version, you know, where we get closer to their performers' faces. So I think that's kind of like my dissatisfaction potentially with it, but it's not in any way, shape, or form in reference to them whatsoever. I think it's just whoever worked on this. I do like going from here to here. It's a nice little Easter egg from what I saw from Fly High, bringing the arms up, sliding it down, ding ding, and then they open it up to frame it, shooting that leg out, dropping it down, boom boom boom. Really nice, super fun choice. The range, I think, could definitely improve on some of, especially, I mean, this is probably one of the most off I've seen them, and even it's still in the ballpark, which is still impressive, but notice that some of them are already dropping that hand down, some still have it placed right above their head, others are having it in the process of dropping, so I don't think a single person's really on the same page with each other, with the exception of potentially these two. But, you know, because it's a group of 7, you would want all 7 to be on the same page. If it's a unison moment, throwing it through, boom, boom. Really like the accent on that. Dropping it down. Her shirt is very intriguing to me. I think that was something I was thinking through for the first 10 seconds of this, was what kind of shirt, like, is it? Is it layered top, or is it just all one piece? So that actually, I'm noticing whenever I do watch dance practices nowadays, I'm starting to notice what they're wearing a lot more, because I have saved a couple sweatpant choices from some of these dance practices, just from the sheer fact of I love them. I think it was somebody from I don't remember. There's 2 cases I think where I'm like, yeah, this is I want those pants. And I ended up finding one pair because I did a Google reverse search and I like really tried to describe them. It was funny moment for me. Anyway, but going here, the switching, I do like just the simple walking forward with the switching of the lines. And it's angles like this that make me think there's a good chance this room is pretty small, because there's really no reason for us to expand this backwards to where we can see everybody, you know? So I think that's just my general note. It does feel very restricted, so I'll give them that. Switching here, nice fixed point where they're choosing to create a moment with this. Like I've said, fixed point is when you have something fixed in place and everything else is moving, but this is staying still. It's given the illusion that it's stuck in place. So that was a really nice moment that we got to see there. Splitting it up, down with the twinkles, looking front. Very nice to see that. Boom, boom, boom. So they built the energy up ever so slightly. And then we have it switch. Ding, 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 ding. Really like that fold down. Super nice to see. Now, here, you notice, yeah, it's a little bit brighter, especially with the red or warmer tones on this. But notice that going from a slightly aerial shot to right here in the mid, it's not a big enough difference for me to justify the choice. I think personally that it just goes back to just like with a lot of dance practices, and I know this is not a dance practice, whenever you have, you know, a moving version where you get to go in between, you get to really see and follow each feature. That's not what this is, you know. And so I really think that we could have either really chose to go for it and made it a lot, you know, more up close and personal, or kept it as a fixed cam. You know, I feel like we didn't really need this angle differentiation. I don't think is as justifiable to equate to the amount of cuts that this has. Dropping it down, sliding it down, and then continuing the trace with her arms, sliding it in, switching the feet. Now this is interesting. I noticed this first. I would say one of our dancers, she needs to accent her hand up a little bit more to stay in line with everybody else. It feels like she's folding it in when it needs to actually have an accent with the wrist. So I feel like we don't have quite as much refinement for there being so much handography in this. I feel like we're not quite as taking as much care to the details of our hands. It could be a turnaround time, it could be some logistical factor of this, but this one doesn't have quite that squeaky clean, calibrated to each other aesthetic that they've shown up until this point as Dreamcatcher and even as Minx to a certain point. So I'm very curious about what was going on the back end of this, because even here you notice one of them is completely off. You know, normally I don't see Dreamcatcher be this off this often. So this is some regular group energy we're giving. Let's just find that interesting. But every group goes through it though, you know what I mean? So it's not even any way like pressing in a negative way. Not quite. I mean, everybody goes through ebbs and flows. They're gonna have routines that are their best, and they're gonna have routines that are kind of subpar on their level of expectation they set for themselves. So to each their own though. But of course we have our feature right here. I like the choice where she chose to trace her hand on the floor and then everybody else bringing in that leg. That was a nice complimentary moment they had. Switching the feet, super nice. They come up, then they now match, and then we chose to mirror, but creating a very interesting way to mirror. It appears that we have a couple of them. All of these three are choosing to go in complete opposite to these three here, and then I believe our center is the one who's just had to make the choice on where to go. I actually like this. It definitely has a sense of, you know, structure, but it does have a sense of proper framing and branching it out. I do know too, I think ideal scenario, I know she's our feature at this point, if she just moved up ever so slightly, this would be a crispy clean formation with spacing. So she's a little too close right there. See, do you see what I'm talking about? I just feel like that we didn't quite need that. I get it, but it's just not necessary. I mean, the glitch effect's cool, don't get me wrong. 2017, having this type of clip is very, very well done in general. But now, of course, we're in 2024, and I can make this on iMovie. Do you know what I mean? With just like their installed transition. So we have to chalk it up to that. I am approaching at this from, I've seen COVID, like 2020, really changed a lot of the tech world and what you can have access to as a regular human. So I will chalk it up to this is because it's in 2017. A lot of the era of how things were presented was different than what we see nowadays from 2020 on. You know, things really changed. The switch right here, I like this. This is really beautiful framing. I think this is gorgeous. I think my one note though, spacing's just ever so slightly off. I don't know who's right. It doesn't really matter. I would say the spacing here is slightly off compared to here. And you can tell that because you see there's a space difference between these two. And so you always have to look at context clues to know, okay, where's our spacing discrepancy? My gut tells me there's a chance that she needs to move a little bit to the inside just so we can have proper framing of our feature with equal amount of spacing from both sides. I mean, it's very close, but you want to make sure that everybody is featured at the same angle the way that you want them to. So we are seeing a lot of overlap from Fly High into this. Of course, this arm position, I'm not saying that was in direct replication of it, but we did see this bleed, and then we also saw this happen, which was something similar to what we saw near the tail end of Fly High. So it just feel like a continuation. I do like that, but I also know Sleepwalking could be in turn towards their earlier like debut era of Good Night and Chase Me potentially. I know they have that nightmare core is what I would call this. That push, great. They always do a great job on dynamics. That tension in the push, and then twisting and rotating around, boom, and then bringing it through. Really like that. It's nice to see turning it through. Now we can barely see our feature here. Camera guy, come on, you know. Stay with me. I like this energy here, but once again, our spacing's ever so slightly off. She needs to scoot over just a smidge so we can see everybody. That would be nice to see. Now, here's the thing too, because I'm starting to be exposed more with the actually seeing closer. Like I'm seeing their faces a little bit more closer in some of these. So I really want to start putting some names to faces. So do forgive me if this feels a bit late, but we do have a leader, and I couldn't because, you know, with Ming's stuff, their stuff was very blurry. So even though y'all were telling me, oh, this person she was our leader, I couldn't pick her out of a lineup. I really couldn't. So, but I'm going to go off of who gives off leader energy, and you tell me if I'm right, and then you give me her name, and then we're going to slowly go like one at a time in that way, because we have plenty of time to really dive into this. Yeah, I think like, oh, if you could do this. Oh wait, I think I'm going to be doing one more video at the time of recording this. I'll do one more video, Dreamcatcher. During that one, if you could tell me during some of the upcoming like Pity or Deja Vu, if you could tell me the names of everybody in those and what they're wearing, that'll help me be able to like, that's what happened with ATs, and it actually helped me a lot because I had somebody help. So I know some of my Patrons, you guys do a fabulous job of giving context to this. That's just a little side note because I know you guys will watch this because I love you guys so much. We're gonna game plan. I'm gonna start learning these ladies' names at this point. I think it's time because I'm starting to actually recognize them. Okay, so here's who gives me leader energy. She does in particular. It could be because of her tone or her demeanor or how she comes across in her posture and presence with her face. That's what I'm gonna go off of. She doesn't really do anything formation wise that stands out quite as much, but she does take on some roles that could fill in spaces that leaders normally fill in groups. I know with XG, I found Jiren because she always started, for the most part, she pretty much started for most of the discography of XG. She was one of the first ones that sang. And then I found with Psychers, the reason why I found him was because he was placed in the formations the way Hongjoon from ATEEZ was placed. And because of the same agency and BB Trippin', you know, that's where my gut was telling me in that regard. Here I'm going off of her presentation and how she comes across. So you tell me if I'm even close. I have no idea. So here's my guess for leader. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But if you could actually tell me what her name is, if she is in fact your leader, and if she's not, let me know what her role is. I'm assuming she is a vocalist for sure. And I would say there was another girl that sticks out to me. I don't think she is a lead dancer. But it's just her facial structure stands out to me. So if you can let me know what her name is as well, that would be great. Okay, done with that. Let's go ahead and move on. Because my goal is if I can get at least 4 out of the 7, I think we're sitting pretty, is my goal with this. I like that da 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 da. Love it with the accents of the hips on there, building the energy through. Yeah, don't let me down. Boom, 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 boom. Bleeding it through. Yep. No. I like it going from the 2 columns, slowly walking. And it's interesting that we went from 2 walks that we go in the middle and then we just adjust the transition to turn it into, oh, goodness. Oh, I guess it's a party over here. Goodness, I don't know why those start. I don't know how they start. Does my like button work? See, sometimes I have this bubble that comes up that shows the like, and I just can never get it to work. Anyway, but I really like the choice of them going from the 2 columns and then coming together and then continuing the transition to create this V. It's a nice moment. But then right here, perfect opportunity to do a wide cam, but we don't have it. That is what's locking in my thought of this is not a big room. Because there's no reason for us to not be doing that. I mean, for me, I like the choice of the range of the motion. It's definitely much improved in this course, but notice some of them are already at the midline or at the 180 degree and some are down at the 45. We don't have clarity on our fingers as much, and I feel like we need more clarification on that for choreography like this. So that would just be my general note here. I like having our dancer in the center, our performer, my leader projection individual. She gives off that energy just in general. Having her accent to create this moment of the turns. I love that with the tension, bringing it through, sliding it through, which is really nice. Energy here is super great. I would say one of our performers needs to move in ever so slightly because if you look, she should be our outside, which means she should be our outside. So she needs to move in to fill in this space, and you're just going to solve a lot of problems on the spacing. Bringing it in, like the accent, boom. That's where it makes me feel like the audio overlay is off because if you notice, it's supposed to hit on a bass and it didn't. Yeah. it hit as they came down, the bass happened. So that's why I was like, need to not, that's also too why you have to be careful to not have too many cuts. If you don't have the tedious capacity to make sure they're all matched up in audio. You'd be shocked at how tricky that can be. I like that energy there. She goes doon doon, bringing them down, up, midnight. I like that range. I know we've kind of already seen that range here. One of our dancers needed to just be more mindful of her range. She rushed that just a smidge. I like that close to you. We held that tone to you, and we bled that leg in with the arm, threading it through. I like this moment here. Ding, ding, ding. Super fun, and I think we're definitely improving in the angles here. Of course, for here, she needs to extend her arm out and then up versus low, because everybody else, they have their bicep, tricep hanging out in line with the shoulder. So that would be something, that's why that sticks out in that way, is because hers is a little bit lower. From here, and also you notice her hand couldn't really go anywhere because it was already set where it was, right? So that would be another note that I would give. Dun, 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 bleeding it through, really nice to see. That was nice to see. That was good to see too, that boom, boom, bringing it over. Presenting, really nice to see once again. Of course, we can't see everybody. Nice unison here. I mean, honestly, if any group could pull off unison this well, I would say Dreamcatcher's really good on the consistency side of it. Because you notice for me, I never once thought in my head the reason why they made so many cuts is because they made mistakes. That's not because I've seen so much of their work at this point. I mean, still not nearly enough to be like, I've seen their stuff, but I've seen quite enough to kind of get the gist on their movement quality and their concepts and what works for their bodies movement-wise on this era in comparison to other genres. And, you know, I feel that they don't... I just feel like this was more of a logistics problem, not really a competency of craft problem, you know, which shows how well they're holding it down and how consistent they are. That's a really interesting thing to have at such an early stage of your career. I know for some of them they did time with Minx, but that was more of a company corporate issue, not a them issue. They've done a great job holding it down even in a different concept, which I very much appreciate. And I just realized one of them has a very interesting, you can't let them haters hate, you know? Love it. Love it, bringing it through, dipping it down, nice little moment, pressing it through. Notice some of them are using their shoulder and some of them are not, so that would just be something to clarify. More usage of back is going to provide more power behind your movement, and so whenever you create tension, those things can really help make that happen and come to life. Bringing it through, boom, boom, boom. We're repeating choreo that we've already kind of seen. Yep, with the turn, really like that. So same notes apply with all of this. This was nice too, just seeing the build up, boom, boom, do, do, do. They're doing much better building up their movement to match what is being presented in the sound. And I appreciate that very much so, because that was something that I think was my overall note in their debut tracks, is that their movement just looked like movement, regardless if they're supposed to look, in this particular instance, very, doll-like or not mischievous, but definitely on the creepier side of not quite alive, you know. But there is a way that you can still present your concept in a way that does match that kind of performance, but also it showcases that you are pushing yourself and you are investing your body within the music, because that's a tricky thing to do. Of course, way easier said than done, but I mean, in general, this is very, very well done on their end in terms of, you know, even though it's not as in sync as they normally are, this is a below average for them, but that's not even below average in general. This is like an average, you know, so that's like, I said that about 17 too. There was a certain era that I went through with them that I felt the exact same way. There was a certain part where it just didn't feel quite as refined as it normally does, because they set that standard themselves. And here, you know, they set the standard pretty high with a lot of these types of angles and handography, and it's not quite hitting the way that it normally does, but it doesn't mean that it's subpar in quality whatsoever. It's still very much great, average to teetering on above average quality still, which just shows, I mean, a huge compliment to that, you know. Energy there, spacing's a little bit off. You can tell that because some of them are already able to rest onto their neighbor. Some of them can't even reach their neighbor. Some of them are already down like she's tying her shoe. So that would just be something to adjust. Not everybody's even looking front either. So there's just like really big discrepancies in comparison to what we're used to. Well, it could be because of her hair. We may chalk it up to that, but. So it's nice to have this moment here. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Yeah, I noticed with one of them, it was the same dancer that I wanted to know her name. She kind of framed her face she framed it, but she also had a little too much space. So you could kind of see that she wasn't really touching her face, but everybody else was. And you can tell because of their hair, moving their hair out of the way, but also just overall essence and presence. And I do like the add-on on this, having the 4 and the 4. This was nice, diving it through. I am assuming this is like a little dance break for me. They could have finished out that Harlem Shake movement sequence. I wouldn't even call it a Harlem Shake, but you normally see a Harlem Shake done this way. Just way more, finishing out that second half of that sequence, I think would have been way more refined and would have matched the music a little bit better. That right there, there's no way that they're hitting this right before that bass is supposed to sound. I really feel like the audio overlay is the issue here. But once again, I could be totally wrong and they're just wanting to hit it on a super syncopated notion, which to each their own. I just find that very interesting that it's happened twice now on that bass. It's like boom, tune. Like as they pull away, the bass takes place, and normally when people hit, it's when the bass is happening. So it feels out of pocket, I think, in a choreographic sense, if that is the case. But not anything, no qualms on it. I love that pull, bringing it up. Great accent. D midnight. Notice that some of us are already, their range is still a little bit off there. Now if you look here, spacing looks pretty good here actually. I think it looks really nice. I do think though there's a tad bit more space in between these two versus these two, and I'm in reference to our back performers, because you have to look at the context of how far apart they are, and then you want to simulate that across the board on these sides and notice that there's just significantly more space between these two. So that would be something to refine. She could come in a little bit more, but that would mean that my dancer in the second row would need to come in a little bit more. So it's just very basic spacing things to adjust. Ooh, what was that? Did you notice there was something on the side? Let's look. Oh, yeah, so there's something, there is a limitation happening because there's no reason for that to have gotten caught. Sing it in. Yeah, da da da. Nice personality and presentation through this. With the switch over, I like that do do do. I would say my performer didn't quite bring in that first side as well as you would normally expect. So that would be a note for her. Also, some are using their back and some are not. You can tell based on the level that they're executing that. Throwing it through. I like when one of them keeps it here and everybody else bled it through. Showcases she was in fact the feature. And then it does feel like we are reversing what we started, which I think is a really cool concept. But what sucks is you couldn't see everybody because of the camera, but no, they can't control that. It's not their fault. And then how they finish, of course, there's a good chance this has to be like an Easter egg of a formation, or the formation's just that off. Or it's what happened in the very beginning. So all in all, is this my favorite Dreamcatcher? No. Do I actually blame them for that? No, I don't. I have a feeling it has to do with other factors. Good chance there's probably a different performance where this looks magical and you can actually see everything, which after I get through their dance practices, we may have some time at the end of the month to be able to kind of dive into other facets. But that's my general note of this. I really feel like it's a bit disappointing that we're not able to see everybody the whole time, and it's not because of the camera, it's because I think of the location that they're in. Also, I don't think, once again, the camera choices or the amount of cuts that were made justified in terms of complexity and in terms of just the camera angles that they were trying to go off of. I don't think it was worth that many cuts. If they had a costume change, maybe, like, I'd be totally much more on board with it. But because we're in the same thing the whole time and we went from a subtle aerial shot, not even a full aerial shot, like a subtle one, into like a fixed cam to the front, kind of, it just wasn't, there's a lot more left to be desired for this one compared to the high quality that we literally just saw from Fly High. That's why I think there's just such a jump in a very interesting way. Normally you would have this and then you would jump to something like Fly High, but it's the opposite effect. So that's what makes me curious. There's something else happening outside of this. But this was a great, it's a nice song. It does have this like doom 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 doom. It feels a bit like a not like a racing game, but it gives off that kind of a neon, that neon light, neon sign vibes, you know, and you're racing with futuristic cars down like a runway or something like that. You know what I mean? So that's what it gives off the energy. The BPM definitely helps with that. They're still very clean. Like, don't get me wrong, still very clean. I am very curious though as to, because I'm gonna watch another one in this session. Curious if it's just a phase with this, or if this is just a one-time thing. We're gonna find out. But all in all though, it was still pretty good. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see more Dreamcatcher, you want to see more K-pop marathons in general, I always host them on my Patreon first. And how it works is, for every comeback a particular group has, I release a certain number of older reactions, just depending on how often that group does comebacks, because I don't want to hold on to these reactions for too long, but I do want to create a nice sense of exclusivity with Patreon, those who really want to be involved and invested and really want to have a safe space to enjoy their groups to the fullest and in a bingeable environment, essentially. So if that's something that interests you, Patreon is there for that. But if you're totally okay with waiting to see what gets posted on YouTube every day, I'm okay with that as well. I hang out on both sides, and the goal too is to not really ever have something exclusive forever on Patreon. Unless it's a copyright issue, then it's gonna have to stay there, obviously, because you know how sensitive YouTube can be. Once again, I'm Jess. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing more from this group, and I know this one wasn't necessarily my most positive review or analysis of it, but a lot of it had nothing to do with the group. It had everything to do with potential outside circumstances, and I will naturally learn those things over time, because like I've said, I've had an amazing group of individuals. Every time I do a marathon, I get to meet some great people from the fan groups affiliated, and I get to learn so much more about a group than if I ever did. No amount of Google would help in regards to those who have the type of insight that I get to be exposed to, and I absolutely love it. So I know I'm going to be getting that with this, and it's going to help me refine my feedback moving forward, and I think that's going to be really fun. Once again, I'm Jess, and I will catch you on the flip side. Bye!